My room's not much better. I just made it look like it was.
Oh, well, thanks. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, anytime. Also, we're live.
Yeah, I know we are live. So you want to go ahead and start?
You can.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's going to
I mean,
start.
it is your show,
Oh, I see how this
and
works.
we're back, so you should probably be the one reintroducing
I
it.
guess it's a good point. So, hey everybody. So we're starting our live stream now. We haven't done any of the WordCast live streams in a very long time, but we're jumping back into this. It's going to be kind of the normal thing that we're going to be doing from now on every Thursday, at least for the time being. Yes, we know we're 20 minutes late. Our bad, but just letting you guys know that this is something that we're going to start doing more regularly, to talk about generally tech news and maybe what's happening with the channel and whatnot. So anyway, I guess we can probably just jump right into the news.
Yeah.
Yay!
Let's talk about HDMI.
Yeah, HDMI.
So the current HDMI spec, the top tier spec, is 2.0. It lets you do 4K 60 hertz, and that's all that really is. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
Now 2.1 comes out with a way bigger upgrade than the upgrade to 2, but for some reason it's only a 0.1.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
So the new cable, it uses the same connector, but it does require a new cable for anyone that's wondering. But it allows you to do 8K 60 hertz with HDR, or 4K 120 hertz with HDR, or 10K 30 hertz from what I read.
So it's kind of ready for quite a future here. They're not going to need to change it again for a while, I don't think.
Yeah. It's also got upgraded audio. It's got a dynamic HDR, which I don't really know what this is going to be used for, but they said that it can kind of change values more scene by scene or frame by frame.
Okay, that's
to me, I
interesting.
think that is something where the video would have a little bit of control over the TV's settings.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what it sounds like.
That does sound like that's kind of what they're talking about.
But then that gets into the issue of, okay, if I calibrate my display, does that still do that? Because then it's just removing the calibration by changing the values.
Right.
So I don't know. It's there. It's going to be an option for people to use. We'll see how it gets used.
Yeah. That's nice, though. I've been waiting for HDMI to finally get an upgrade because it's been crap compared to DisplayPort for such a long time.
Yeah, and now this also supports the one other big thing that you needed DisplayPort for the most part.
Yeah.
Variable refresh rate.
Yes, which is so nice. It's about time that we have that.
That means we're going to get more monitors with variable refresh rate. We're going to get TVs with variable refresh rate.
Yeah.
If there is actually a next-gen console, we could, like a 5th generation PlayStation, for example, we could see variable refresh rate game consoles.
Well, they could potentially add it into the PS4 Pro simply with a firmnewer update because it is running AMD graphics.
No. It would need a different connector.
Oh wait, no.
Same shape. It's
right. It's a different. Okay, yeah. Okay, never mind. Darn, I was hoping for something cool there, but never mind.
Yeah. Although AMD did get FreeSync working over HDMI, so who knows? Maybe there's a way.
That's true. They did. So that'd be cool if they could. Even so.
Also,
it's just cool to finally see HDMI being competitive again.
And I'm wondering if that's going to mean that we get G-Sync monitors with variable refresh rate HDMI ports.
Right.
Because unlike DisplayPort, where they also control the internal standard for monitors, HDMI doesn't. So HDMI is just essentially adding to what DisplayPort can do. So the computers or the monitors would already have to have the hardware in there for it.
Right, makes sense. Also, we do have a viewer now.
Nice.
Actually, this guy, I think he's followed the channel for a little while. His name's Joe, and he says, "Rip DisplayPort." So,
yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. It could be. I don't know. I don't really feel like it's going to be that way, at least for now, especially because G-Sync's still using DisplayPort.
Yeah, but so let's think about this though. DisplayPort's already number 3 for ports. It's slowly getting its way to number 2, but HDMI is still far ahead, and so it's just nice to see the dominant connector on the market getting the features that we all want.
I think I could agree with that. Yeah.
DisplayPort's going to adapt faster because it's used less. It doesn't have that same worry of compatibility.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah. Well, even so, it's just I'm really happy to see it competitive because I've been really disappointed with DisplayPort for quite some time myself. I've just been almost frustrated with the lack of innovation on it. And like 2.0 was like okay, but it didn't really support what we needed, which was what they're doing now. So
also, if this is 2.1, what's 3 gonna be?
Yeah, you have a good point there. Although that's probably a long ways
I feel
off,
like
I
3 is gonna
guess.
have to finally be like a new connector type.
Probably, yeah, yeah, I would assume.
If ideally for me, I think I'd like to see power transfer through that too. So like you
Yeah,
have the TV with like a large power adapter or whatever to power all of the devices that are connected to it via HDMI,
uh-huh.
something like that. So you
Yeah,
only need
yeah,
one
yeah.
plug going to other devices.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So
I like that.
that's
That's
really the
cool.
biggest improvement I could see that would justify
Right.
a 0.0 upgrade.
Do you know much about the upgraded audio, by the way? Is that
If you go to
something?
the source, it mentions it a little bit. I don't pay enough attention to audio to really talk much about it. It says EARC supports the most advanced audio formats such as object-based audio and enables advanced or audio signal control capabilities, including
Okay.
device auto detect.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's interesting.
yeah,
Well, like I said, once again, it's good to see an upgrade. I still find that 2.1 hilarious, though.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting though. I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
I'm really kind of wondering though. I haven't seen that many FreeSync monitors at CES this year so far. Like there haven't been a lot of major ones.
Well, that's because FreeSync 2 just got announced.
I guess that's true, huh?
So
Yeah.
there's probably been what 1 or 2 monitors with that. Everyone else is getting it ready.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I'm
So
waiting. Because there's been a lot of particularly cool stuff coming out when it comes to like FreeSync and G-Sync and stuff like that.
mhm.
Um, but especially some of the newer G-Sync monitors that have come out that have been announced here at CES are pretty impressive. I was looking at, I had some of them saved. Let me see if I can find the article again. But there's definitely some cool stuff coming out. Let's see here. It was the Predator Z301 CT and XB2 series displays.
Oh, and
So
HP has a G-Sync monitor coming out.
that's right. That's right.
That ultra wide, that $1,300 ultra wide.
Yeah, yeah, which is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just hoping to see some kind of awesome FreeSync ultra wide because, like with my new system, I'm planning on going with Vega as long as AMD's not lying to us. But yeah, so we'll,
Oh,
we'll see. We'll see.
Asus had a G-Sync HDR display coming out.
Ooh, okay,
27-inch, 16 by 9, 144 hertz, 4K.
okay, that's beautiful. Oh my,
4K
that's something I'm
HDR,
excited for.
144 hertz G-Sync.
Displays are getting to such a big point now, and this is the year that I plan to upgrade my display because I've been sitting here with this LG Ultrawide for quite a while, and it was kind of a middle of the road upgrade for me just because what I really wanted wasn't out yet. So we
Yeah.
just have to
I
see.
mean,
I'm
that's
just hoping that FreeSync follows suit because, like I said again, I'm planning on going with Vega, so I'm hoping
I
FreeSync
I
monitors
bet
come
you
out.
so between FreeSync 2's launch and Vega's upcoming launch, I bet you the Vega launch is when we see all of the super high-end FreeSync monitors. Because right now, sure, it's easy to include, and that's why some of the high-end ones have it. But there's really no point. No one's going to
Yeah,
spend $400 on a graphics card and $1,300 on a monitor.
right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But when you get
Yeah,
the high-end graphics cards that you can actually run
yeah.
that on,
No, that makes a lot more sense now. Is once if we're starting to get GPUs that enthusiasts are going to be buying. Another thing that I'm actually interested to touch on Vega, since we were kind of just talking about that a little bit here, is another thing that I've been thinking about recently with it is AMD has continued to promise support for more than 2 GPUs on their setup, and considering what I'm hoping is that we end up in a situation where AMD is still supporting quad GPU setups with Vega, and developers maybe start to optimize for it a little bit more. And I totally understand why NVIDIA is doing only 2 cards, so I'm not necessarily hitting them with a heavy criticism here or anything. I just personally, as an overkill enthusiast, I would like to see more than 2 GPUs that don't crash, whether or not the performance increase is negligible or not, which it oftentimes is. It's more of just the fact that it can be done that is cool.
yeah. If anyone does it, I expect AMD to, just because they need every niche market they can get.
Yeah, exactly. And they've kind of always supported the extreme enthusiasts, I felt, in a lot of areas a little bit better than the other guys. And
Yeah.
it's because they don't have as much of market share, they kind of have to.
Yeah. AMD's not in a position where they can micromanage how people use their devices. They need to be able to just sell, Whereas NVIDIA is at the point where they have a comfortable lead in the market. That's not going away really anytime soon, even if Vega's amazing. And so NVIDIA is just trying to protect the user from diminishing return, and more importantly from, like computer builders that try to make people buy 3-4 GPU graphics cards that don't know better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense, and I understand them on that front. I did like the idea of the whole enthusiast key when they first did it, where if you wanted to, you could, but you had to go through some roundabout stuff to make sure that it made it harder for system builders to screw people and whatnot. But I'm frustrated that they didn't continue with that, and I kind of see why. Like, I mean, I do get that it's not necessarily a super profitable thing for them either, because it's just people like me and other people like, that are heavy duty enthusiasts that are going to be buying even more than one GPU, generally speaking. But I still feel like, with such a heavy lead in the market, they have the finances to kind of put some effort into that and making it at least function without crashing. Again, if, oftentimes with, the third and fourth GPU, we're only seeing, 25 and 10% respectively added on top of whatever frames you're getting with the first two. And so again, I understand it, but just the fact that you literally can't now rather than you can and there's very little benefit is a little bit frustrating to me.
Yeah, I get that.
But back on displays here. So I did find that article that I saved. So yeah, the Acer Predator monitor. So the Z301 CT specifications and this is actually something that really interested me. This is something that I think if at the right price, could be something that a lot of people would end up buying. It's a 30-inch, 21:9 curved ultra-wide monitor. It's a VA panel, and it's at 2560 by 1080 at 200 hertz. Adaptive refresh rate, I'm assuming probably 40 to 200 hertz is my guess. Yeah. And it's G-Sync, not FreeSync. But what interests me most here is, since it's a 1080p panel, if they can get the price right on this, we're looking at people with 1060s, 1070s, people with RX 480s being able to actually run this decently. And a lot of games, that something like a 1060 could even run at, well over 100 frames per second. And so it'd be really cool if they can get this in the right price market. I can see a lot of people wanting to buy a monitor like this simply because, they can drive it. It's not super high resolution, but they get a lot of the benefits of the really expensive monitors out there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that works out. The curve itself is nice, although I hope that doesn't make it extremely overpriced, because that could be kind of killing itself there.
Yeah. I guess while we're on monitors, we can jump down to that 8K monitor that Dell showed off.
That's right. The Dell showed off a beautiful 8K monitor. It's only $5,000 though, guys. So
yeah,
nice and cheap, something that you can very easily afford. I'm sure most people can go out and buy one.
Yeah, it's essentially the equivalent of 33 megapixels.
It's ridiculous, man. I mean, it's nice to see 8K displays. To be completely honest, I don't want anything to really jump into 8K too quickly, because we're just now finally starting to get, consoles that are capable of doing a little bit of 4K gaming, and we're getting, PCs that you don't have to buy the most expensive stuff in the world now to run 4K.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this is really for video editing, especially on the high end, because you have like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for example, is being shot on Red's 8K camera.
That's true. Okay.
Multiple YouTubers that like Linus, you have MKBHD that have 8K cameras, and while none of them are going to be editing in 8K most of the time, if they did ever want to do anything like that, it's nice to have proper resolution.
That's true. You have a good point.
And
there.
At $5,000, the only people who are going to be able to afford that are people who can also afford the tens of thousands of dollars on camera.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I see what you're saying there. It's nice to it really is nice to just see something 8K that isn't extreme niche. Because I mean, it's $5,000, but when we're talking about monitors that cost $1,000 to $1,500, that's really not that much. More for somebody that's already willing to spend that kind of money on a monitor. And I mean, considering that, a lot of the 8K TVs that were being shown off and stuff, if you could even buy them, were, in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
So, by the way, just to note, anybody that's watching right now, feel free to leave a comment or something over here on the side for us. We will totally read those and respond to those. Joe sent something else in quite a while ago. Just something that is actually kind of funny. He's saying HDMI 3 is going to be 40K at 120 hertz and 600 watt peak power over cable.
I mean, hey, I'd be okay with that.
So continuing with the 8K display though. Yeah, so it's, I mean, is it IPS? I didn't actually read that, this particular article.
So this one, let's see.
Let's see. I'm trying to see. I don't know if it says.
I don't think it does. It mentions Sharp's IGZO 8K display, but it doesn't.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was IGZO on this too.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or there's no way it's TN.
No, of course not. No. I mean, that'd be impossible. Well, not impossible. It'd be dumb. A billion colors.
Yeah.
So is it 10-bit then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And 100% coverage of the Adobe RGB and sRGB color gamuts. That's impressive, actually.
That's what my monitor has.
Yeah, you have the same monitor. No, you don't have the same one as me. You have similar.
Yeah, I have the business class one.
That's right. Okay. Yep. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's go to the Faraday Future topic.
Real quick, we got another comment before we say that. Chris, actually, I don't know if you remember who Chris is. It's actually the Chris we know, but he just said he just wants Vega. Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with that. Vega would be an awesome thing to see. So at least we saw, you know, that little preview there, and I'm actually so far pretty impressed with what they've been able to do when it comes to showing the actual frames per second and whatnot. Vega's looking to be really promising. They're actually showing it. Of course, this is in a closed scenario on an AMD system running Vulkan, which is an AMD optimized API. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen, you know, when it actually in reality is released. But according to a demo that was shown off, the top-end Vega GPU, at least they didn't actually say it was top end. We're just assuming it was the top end one, is beating the 1080 when it comes to 4K Doom average frames per second. Not by much, by like 5 or 10, but still enough to make a difference to say that it's beating it. Of course, NVIDIA still has the Titan X. So. And
the tie that they'll no doubt announce as soon as it gets announced.
No, I'm sure they're just holding off so that they can grab it. But at the same time, you know, if they release the TI at, you know, $800 or something and lower the price of the 1080 a little bit, if the top end Vega card comes out at, you know, 500, 550, something like that, that's going to be a really big hit on NVIDIA, because even if it's getting kind of close to the performance of the TI, you know, it's a lot cheaper. And that's something that even as an, you know, enthusiast myself, I'd be going out and buying the Vega card just because, you know, it's not really.
But let's think about this though. There's no way that NVIDIA couldn't afford to just drop the price on their card to whatever they need to be competitive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
For all we know, they could come out with a, you know, $680, you know, 1080 Ti, drop the, you know, 1080 to the 1070s price and and you just keep going down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I don't think we can afford it.
Yeah, before we jump into the next thing that you were about to say, one last thing on monitors. So Acer released one more monitor. I'll run down this one really quick, but it's the XB2 series display. Or no, that's the series. Sorry. This one here is the. It actually doesn't seem to say the model number, but it's a 1920 by 1080, non-curved or anything like that. It's a standard 16 by 9 panel at 240 hertz, and it supports G-Sync. Now it's TN, of course, to be able to achieve the high refresh rate, but it's still, for somebody that's doing competitive FPS and stuff, it's nice to see that, because we do have a lot of, you know, GPUs that are able to run things like CSGO at really high frame rates. So it's nice to see extraordinarily high refresh rate monitors out.
Yeah.
Oh, another comment. Alex says, what do we think of the new BlackBerry phone that was shown off that's being distributed by TCL?
I couldn't care less about Blackberries, frankly. I saw the phone. I mean, it looks like it would be a good business phone, but I don't see the point in them marketing it to consumers, which rumor has that they will. Other than that, I mean, I saw nothing about it that made me want to give up my Pixel for it, so it doesn't really interest me.
Right. I get you.
I don't know.
There is some. Yeah, it's. I mean, I haven't read into it a lot. It doesn't look bad, really. Like,
it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look interesting.
It's just not that interesting to me. I mean, of course, people buy Blackberries, generally speaking, for the keyboard. I had a Priv for a while, for anybody that doesn't know, and I liked it overall, but I ended up getting rid of it just because the whole reason I wanted it over other Android phones was primarily because of that keyboard, and unfortunately, the keyboard on it wasn't really that good. It was a little bit too mushy, a little bit too cramped for me in particular. I have kind of big hands, but still, you know, it was a little frustrating to type on. I would mistype a lot. I could actually type faster on something like SwiftKey. So
Yeah.
for people that really want a keyboard, though, it's nice to see their phones continuing to come out. But yeah, it's called the BlackBerry Mercury. 4.5-inch Full HD display with curves on the edges. It does have a keyboard. It's not a slide-out keyboard, so it's a pretty large phone considering how big the display is. But it's considered mid-range, so you're not going to be spending a lot of money on it. Quad-core Snapdragon 821 and 3 gigs of RAM. Going to be decently fast, nothing special there. 18-megapixel camera that'll, let's be honest, probably be garbage. BlackBerry's never been good when it comes to cameras. And 8-megapixel front-facing camera. Now, that's actually decent. Their front-facing cameras actually tend to be good because they're more business-oriented phones, but their rear cameras always suck. So anyway, I mean, it could be cool. We'll have to see how it is. If I get a chance, I might try it out or something like that.
Yeah.
So did you have a topic you wanted to jump into?
There was another question in there about the Razer laptop.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, the Razer actually, this came out. This was today, wasn't it?
Yeah. Today is when Razer showed off both the laptop and their projector.
Right. Okay. So Razer showed off a new laptop today. He knows more about it than me actually, but it's a triple monitor laptop. So it actually has 2 fold-out panels that come off at the center panel, which is something I've been hoping a laptop manufacturer would do for a while. So it's really cool to see it. Of course, this could end up like some of their other projects and never really be a thing. But Razer's usually pretty good at, being, I've only seen 1 or 2 of their, projects not actually come out. Most of them do come out, so it'd be cool if this one did too.
I mean, this one certainly looks like a full-fledged product, more so than a lot of their other projects.
Yeah, it looks.
Like you look at it, it looks like something that would be sold in a store.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as part of the question was why someone would want that. As far as gaming goes, I mean, I guess if you went to LAN parties all the time, this would be good. But the main thing for me that I would, if like I was doing this type of thing is content creation for like events. This would be an amazing laptop if you had like a dedicated editor going to like CES this week.
Yeah, right.
You have 3 4K IGZO displays on there and a 1080 to do your rendering. That's going to work out pretty well, and it'll give you a lot more screen real estate than normal.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it could be definitely really useful for content creation and the like. I mean, it's cool in a lot of ways, and I do feel like triple monitor gaming isn't dead. It's just a lot of people.
Oh, it's definitely not.
It's definitely not dead.
As far as bringing it with you and stuff, though, it's in general. I mean, like again, if you were like going to LAN parties, like everyone that popped up, then this could make sense because this is going to save you hours and hours and hours. So if you have the money, you might as well. Time is money. Right.
No, exactly. I get that. Yeah, and I think it's cool. The only concern I personally have is battery life. I mean, not that people are going to probably leave it plugged in, but I mean, I would hope there's probably a way to turn off some of the displays. I didn't see how it folds exactly though, but the thing
I think they slide in, not fold.
Oh, okay, all right, that makes more sense.
So they have arms to hold them out at an angle so that it's not flat.
Okay.
But from best I can tell, there's like a sliding mechanism to them.
That's good because I mean, what if you take it to a coffee shop because you need to write an article or something? It'd be kind of awkward to have to fold out like 3 displays. I mean, it would be
then
cool.
Again, this laptop isn't really for people that are just going to a coffee shop to write an article. This thing is like 12 pounds.
No, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, in a situation, because I'm sure anybody that buys it, they could end up in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Not that they would purchase it for that reason, but they could still end up at a situation where they would need to use it as a kind of a more compact machine. And I mean, honestly, it's pretty big, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that uncomfortable to use in your lap. Maybe not for a long period of time because it's heavy. But I mean, even I guess my Sager that I have over here, I'm able to kind of use in my lap. It's just its battery life's complete garbage.
Yeah. Oh, and it has an SD card slot. Hey, Apple.
Yeah, right. Please, Apple. That's the funny thing about the MacBook Pro is if they had just added that one port, it would have made such a huge difference. It's the fact that they killed off the SD card slot, and it's supposed to be their professional model. And one of the biggest things that people do pro-wise on Macs is video edit because Final Cut Pro is awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Apple was smart, what they would have done is 3 Thunderbolt ports, 1 regular USB port, and then 1 SD card slot.
Yeah.
I get the idea of trying to quickly phase in Thunderbolt, but you making people buy it for even just 1 item, making them buy an adapter is not going to work out. But if you at least give them 1, then there would have been 99% less complaints.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit frustrating because I totally like you said, I totally understand why they're going towards the USB-C and Thunderbolt. It is, what we hope the future is. But it was kind of fine on the regular MacBook. They should have had two of them. But on the regular MacBook, it was no big deal to have just those ports because, let's be honest, most people that are going to be using a regular MacBook probably aren't doing anything but web browsing. They don't need a lot of ports, right?
Yeah.
So I understood that. I thought the one port idea was kind of stupid. If it had two, it makes more sense because there are some people that are going to need that. But on the MacBook Pro, it needs to be more professionally oriented, and clearly that's not what they're aiming for. They're aiming for, it seems like with it, they're aiming more towards, just another consumer-based product.
Well, I mean, really, that's what Apple is at this point. Is they're not pro products. They're people that want to be professionals products.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Or, college students, people that are starting to get into art, things like that.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Moving towards.
Right.
When you look at like the Mac Pro, they've given up on that essentially.
Right.
Not releasing one for years and then finally coming out with one and then not releasing one again for years.
Yeah,
on a device that you could sell for $10,000 to the same person every year, and you're still that dumb that you don't update it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point because all the people that are currently running on them would buy a brand new one if they came out with a brand new one.
Yeah, because I mean, you get that level of power, and you get the type of software like Final Cut. That's exactly what people want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so well optimized, and of course, I'll always be a PC user, but for somebody that's not running a YouTube channel that is specifically tech oriented like us, it's something that Mac, I understand why people would use it. It's really simple to use Final Cut Pro. It's really easy. It's quick to render. It's quick to it's really well optimized. And so having the ability to spend lots of money, if you say you're a car YouTube channel or something like that, that's really huge. You'd be willing to shell out that kind of money for a good video editing machine. Problem is, they can't because there's nothing out there that's worth it right now when it comes to the Mac side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So let's see here. I actually had one more thing I wanted to touch on before we get back to our regular topics. And that's how these videos are supposed to be, though, right? We kind of go off on tangents. It's the whole idea. Also, just to let everybody know, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter one than normal. A lot of times we go between an hour and a half and 2 hours. This one will go no later than 5:30 p.m. Of course, you can always watch the replays. So for those of you that are watching that, that's fine. But I work graveyard shift, so I've actually got to leave here in a little while. But normally these would be able to go longer. So anyway, so we talked a little bit about Vega, which is really awesome. Now we're actually supposed to be seeing theoretically Zen here at CES too, is what people are predicting, which I'm hoping that we do see more of it here in the next couple days. But
yeah, we saw motherboards for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We saw motherboards and their new chipsets, and so far it's looking really promising, at least board-wise. So we've got boards from pretty much all the major manufacturers. We've got MSI, Gigabyte, BioStar, ASRock, everybody here. They're all making boards. And the new chipsets are the X300 and X370. They're all running the AM4 platform, of course, which is the socket. But the chipsets, they have two of them right now. The X370 obviously being the higher end one. I didn't see what the exact differences between the two chipsets are, but what I am seeing on a lot of these boards is, well, we've got 4 DIMM slots for DDR4, so we're assuming it supports at least 64 gigs of RAM, which is something that AMD has needed for a long time. Professionals that maybe want to edit and stuff. Not that AMD CPUs really have been caught up recently, but back when I had like a 9370, I would have loved to be able to use 64 gigs of RAM. Limiting it to 32 was kind of frustrating. Let's see here. They've got, multiple PCI Express 3.0 slots. Although, something that actually, going kind of back to what we were talking about earlier about multi-GPUs not being a huge thing. A little bit frustrating to me, actually, is what's happening with NVIDIA making it, 2 GPUs kind of being the limit, is you have to understand that they are the market share right now. They're kind of setting the values. And so what I've noticed a trend happening since then is all new motherboards that have been coming out, we're not really seeing motherboards that are oriented towards more than 2 graphics cards, which, normally that's kind of been the norm, but I mean, even on the very top end, we used to see where we'd have the PCI slots spaced specifically to fit quad GPU setups all right squished next to each other. And even on some of the top end boards from Asus and ASRock, we're not really seeing that. We are with X99, I guess, on one or two of Asus's boards. One of those being the WS series board. It has all full-size PCI Express slots, so you'd have no problems there. But even seeing these AMD boards here, we're looking at probably having, oriented for triple graphics cards kind of being the max that I've seen so far on the boards. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some higher end ones from Asus. They tend to come out with their super amazing ones a little bit after the CPU launches rather than beforehand. I think they like to, see what the market's doing before they completely release them.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the amount of people that buy that stuff is so little that I'm not surprised that they're waiting on that type of stuff. Yeah. It would just, let's get all of the, main production on the consumer products rather than the niche, and then we'll just build niche stuff later.
Exactly. Yeah. I would really hope that we see actually a WS series board for the new Zen stuff, it's actually Ryzen now. Sorry, I keep calling it Zen by habit, but Ryzen. I'm really hoping that we end up seeing that because it looks to be that the 8-core Ryzen CPU, if everything AMD has said again is true, could be some seriously good professional. Could be a seriously good professional CPU. So we need to see more, professional-oriented boards towards that, especially at the prices that are rumored. There's actually, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was talking about some of the rumors of Ryzen. And again, those are still rumors. We still don't know that much. And of course, most people shouldn't be dwelling on rumors too much, considering it's supposed to be announced here really soon. But still fun to talk about, right? So anyway, Ryzen, the price points that are estimated have actually, if they are true, are really impressive. So we're looking at, I believe it was about $150 for the hyper-threaded quad core. It was going to be about $250 for the hyper-threaded 6-core and $350 for the hyper-threaded 8-core, which the 8-core, for those of you who don't know, AMD has shown off the 8-core Ryzen CPU being very similar to the performance of a 6900K, which is $1,000. So at a $350 price point, that's impressive. The other thing, though, is they're saying that they're going to be doing what AMD has done in the past, doing the Black Edition chips, which are going to be ones that they've been taken from the center of the wafer. So they're going to overclock substantially higher. So they're going to have slightly higher out-of-the-box clocks, and they're also going to should overclock substantially higher, which that's estimated to be more like the $500 range, which I think, if you have those two 8-cores there, the cheaper 8-core is going to be for the standard, professional that doesn't really care about PCs that much. But they're going to sell probably even more of the Black Edition for, people like me that are wanting to really overclock the thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, since we'll probably talk about this topic a lot next week too, let's move on.
No, that's totally fine. So the next thing, are we going back to the topics on the list here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So next up is Faraday Future. For those that don't know what they are, they're a car company. Essentially, think Tesla competitor. They are all electric. They are designed to be even faster than Tesla's. And they recently showed off a bit of the car. It's got a very, let's call it, unique design.
Yeah.
It's definitely very different from a lot of cars. And in their demo, they showed off all sorts of details about the car. They showed off mostly just the exterior. But this car, being a very high-tech car, is self-driving, as you would expect. Now, unlike Tesla, Faraday Future is doing what a lot of other companies do with their self-driving cars and using LiDAR. And because of that, you need like a round object that internally spins to run the LiDAR. And so what they're doing on this one is on the hood of the car is where this item is. And when you're driving normally, when you're taking control, the LiDAR sensor goes down into the car. And so it just looks like a normal car. When you're driving in self-driving mode, the LiDAR sensor comes up and it lights up. Hang on.
So yeah, what he's saying, though, continuing on with what Daniel's talking about, sorry for that that little interruption there, but yeah, so it's if you go to actually just ff.com, it talks about the car. You there, Daniel?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and continue on what you were saying.
So beyond that, though, so it like lifts up, so everyone around it knows that it's self-driving. Essentially, you can look at the front of this car if you're driving nearby, and you know that it's controlling itself. There is not a driver taking control.
Right.
Nice to know.
That is cool.
Yeah, this car is supposed to be very fast. They kind of confusing. So they put a video in during their presentation, and at the end of the video, it showed 2.44 seconds. But then later in the presentation, they said it could do 0 to 60 in 2.39.
Right. Yeah.
So nobody really knows what's up with that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe they recorded the video much earlier on or what.
Yeah. Because that's definitely kind of weird. Well, do you remember what the Tesla P100D is doing off the top of your head?
2.5.
2.5. Okay, yeah, which is already faster than any other production car out there.
Yeah, which that exact phrasing. That's exactly what pissed me off about Faraday Future. So during their demo of this car, they were talking about how it's going to be, or it is the fastest production car, but it's not a production car. It's nowhere near close to buying.
No, exactly. Well, I mean, production car, classifies something that is, well, generally not a supercar, something, like a Bugatti or whatever, that you can't really call a production car, because they're so niche. Like you could call a Porsche or Ferrari, that could be a production car, but not, the crazy high end. But it also has to actually be produced, guys.
Yeah,
to be a production car.
And then everyone's favorite cringe moment from this, and why the entire boring ass conference was worth watching. So the way that they had their stage set up, it wasn't a regular stage. They were essentially they built a building over the track so that the cars could drive in to the room and then drive off really fast, because they did a live 0 to 60 test as well, just in a less than ideal environment, but where they had a couple of luxury SUVs. They had 2 different Teslas. They had this car out there all doing it live. And then after that, they came back in. They had someone get out of the car, and on the car, on the exterior, there's like a virtual button that you can press to make the car go park itself. So the idea is you can just get out of the car, tap on your car, and it'll go park itself, and you can leave.
Which is really big. It's awesome.
And they went to do that demo, and they had a spot where it was going to park, and the car just didn't move. It just didn't work. And so that was super cringy.
Yeah.
They're clearly not ready. And I'm really glad that the issue with the car's self-driving and self-parking was that it didn't move, because the way that they had their demo set up, there wasn't really a whole lot in between where the car was and where the audience was. And so think of it that went haywire, but in a different way, where if the car, instead of not moving, it went into the audience.
That would be
That could have been so bad. That's the type of demo. If you're going to do that with no barrier in front of the audience, you need to ensure that it is going to work 100%.
Yeah, and the fact that it didn't really work at all says that other problems could have happened, and that's a really big deal.
Yeah, the fact that they were lucky that the car just didn't do anything is a really bad sign.
Yep.
So, I don't know, that entire event was pretty cringy. Also, rumor has it that the car is going to be like $180,000.
I know, which, I mean, that's a little bit
at that point, you're not even competing with Tesla, because Tesla's highest end car is like $120,000.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, what do you do? I don't know. That's a little bit iffy there. That's the thing that Tesla's always been good at too, is they are slowly trying to bring the prices down on their cars so that more consumers can join the electric car master race. But and so seeing a car company that sure, their goal is seems to be to beat the P100D. That's not really Tesla's goal in the first place. The P100D came out because they might as well, because people are willing to spend that kind of money on them right now. But Tesla's goal isn't best electric car in the world. Tesla's goal is electric car for everyone, and that's a little bit different than what it seems Faraday Future is going after. 180K. That's just so much money.
Let's as far as Faraday Future goes, really the last point to make. They're so far along in production, they don't even have a factory.
Yeah.
So for them to try and come out and act like they're a Tesla competitor and that they have like the fastest production car when they don't even have funding for a factory, let alone a factory yet. Yeah. So,
it's unfortunate, but I mean, whatever. Companies are going to say what they're going to say to try and gain traction on whatever.
There was some cool things, like they showed off. One of the things was that they have what's called the FFID, which is essentially like a user profile for you that works across all Faraday Future cars. So say you have like your seat set to a position that you really like, things like that, that can all be carried across. So you sign in on a new car and that your seat will auto adjust. And apparently they didn't really show off much of the interior, but apparently every seat will have a display that it can watch. So like the back seats will have a display on the back of the front seat. And so there's going to be other settings you can control. You can watch videos, things like that. All stuff that really whatever. The car's also got like two integrated cellular antennas and 2 Wi-Fi hotspot radios so that the car can function as a hotspot as you're driving around town or driving around wherever on a road trip. Have Wi-Fi pretty much anywhere you can get cell phone signal, that type of thing.
Right.
Very high-tech car.
Although, my thing is, why would it have 2 Wi-Fi antennas? Is it designed to reach outside the car? Is that the idea? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. And then also as far as 2 cellular antennas, it's so that one's in the front, one's in the back, so they can try and reach out farther in different directions so that you get signal more places.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I like the idea of my car. Right. I like the idea of a car being the thing that broadcasts my Wi-Fi too, especially, if you have your own really fast internet and you go to a coffee shop even or something that maybe has, crappy internet, you can just connect your car. That's actually something T-Mobile has, the little OBD reader that gives you a Wi-Fi hotspot in your car as well for older vehicles. And I thought it was really cool, except for the fact that according to T-Mobile, at least, it doesn't stay on after you turn off the car, which makes sense. It could run down the battery. But I wish it was a setting or something like that, because the OBD readers do get power when the car's off, because I would love to personally have a Wi-Fi hotspot in my car that I could access while the car was off.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess, is that everything about that car, though?
Yeah.
We are getting somewhat low on time here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to jump into the T-Mobile news first before we go to I feel like that last topic there that we have is kind of a big one, so.
Yeah, T-Mobile one's is pretty straightforward. So what they're doing is, if specifically for people on the T-Mobile One plan, everyone else like me they just don't care about anymore. But if you're on the T-Mobile One plan, going forward, I think starting next month, taxes and fees will be included.
Yeah, which is super cool.
120 for 2 lines plus $20 in taxes and fees, you pay 120. Now for us in Oregon, that really doesn't make much of a difference anyway. It's a couple bucks per line in fees because we don't pay taxes on cellular that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difference, but not a big deal. Yeah.
But I mean, I used to work for Sprint. I know how some, especially in places like New York, oh my God, this will make a massive difference because you have like 911 tax, you have regular tax, you have a city tax, I've seen people with $20, $30 in taxes on their bills before, not counting carrier fees.
Yeah.
I know how much that can make a difference. For us, it wouldn't make much of a difference in the first place, and for me, it makes no difference because I'm not on T-Mobile One.
What are you on right now?
The 2 for $100 unlimited plan.
Okay, that's such a nice plan. I'm on T-Mobile One right now, and I like it. And the only thing that disappoints me is I don't have high-speed hotspot, and I don't really feel like paying that extra $25 to do so. I was for a while. Hey, you know what? Shut up. No, but yeah, I mean, you do get unlimited hotspot, by the way, for people that don't know, with the standard T-Mobile One plan. It's just that it's only at
3G speeds.
Yeah, so I mean, you end up getting like a megasecond at best,
yeah,
or something like that. So I mean, it's enough to browse, maybe basic, like social media and stuff.
Check your emails, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it's which is nice to have. I mean, it's nice to at least have that feature there, especially if you're somewhere where you won't have Wi-Fi and you want to connect your Chromebook or whatever to check email. But I do miss having high-speed hotspot included. But I totally understand why T-Mobile didn't, because then they'd have to charge more, which is what they do. You have to pay that $25 extra because people that are doing heavy hotspot tethering uses a lot of network bandwidth. We've got another comment though here from Joe, a couple more actually. So when we were talking about the Razer stuff, he said waiting for the Razer Toaster project revealed on April 1st last year. Yeah, it'd be cool if they came out with that,
There was a company that showed off, I think it was Griffin, that showed off a smart toaster, and I want it. But my big issue is that it's only via Bluetooth, not via Wi-Fi.
Which is dumb because,
I want to... Yeah. See, what they need to do is make a smart toaster that has like a cover over the top so that it can be sealed. And the bread won't go bad. It can airtight seal, and then you can just stick that on there, and then it can pop open. You can press a button as you're coming upstairs and have toast ready for you.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be so awesome.
Yeah. Or when you connect to your Wi-Fi, the toast automatically cooks. You just come home to fresh toast.
It'd be great. Yeah, toast is beautiful, but it's such a pain in the ass to make, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi toaster, that's what we need.
Yep.
So he was talking now back to the car stuff that we were talking about just a minute ago. He said the Model X is really compelling, and hopefully this isn't getting too personal, but he did post it here publicly. He's legally blind, and so self-driving tech would really help. And
Currently, it's not legal for consumers. You have to get a special permit. That being said, though, California is one of, not the, but one of the better states as far as working on this, slowly working on getting it regulated.
Definitely, yeah.
They're working with companies on getting permits out so that they can get it tested and used. And that's where a lot of testing has been done is California, Las Vegas, and then I think it was it Michigan? There was a state that recently just said,
I think it's
permit,
Michigan.
just come here.
Yeah, I think it's Michigan. That sounds right to me. But yeah, so I mean, it's really cool that we're seeing this stuff, especially for people that maybe are say legally blind. That's super awesome to see the availability for people to still get around easily, which is awesome. So that's definitely really cool. But yeah, so we're done with the T-Mobile news there. We've got about another 15 minutes ish. So I guess we can get into possibly our last news story of the day, which this is a big one because a lot of people I'm sure have been waiting for this for a very long time, you and I included.
Yeah, so we have the Panasonic GH5, their brand new flagship mirrorless camera. So what we have here is, now I'll mention the price first, get it out of the way so you don't get your hopes up. It's $2,000 without a lens.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah, it's physically larger than the GH4. I think I saw like 13% larger. It's better.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to say for anybody that maybe doesn't know what the GH4 is or doesn't know how popular it was, it's a mirrorless camera made by Panasonic that was one of the biggest YouTuber cameras out there. Really good for video. That was the primary use that people had for it. Anyway, continue. The GH5 is the successor.
Yeah. So pretty much the only thing that is actually the same as the GH4 is the battery, which makes sense. Companies generally stick with the same battery type for a long time because it makes it easy when you're buying cameras.
That's super awesome.
Yeah. So what we have here specs-wise, 20.3 megapixel camera. It can do ultra high definition 4K at 60 FPS or 4K 10-bit. This is 422, which I'm not going to get into, but essentially 10-bit HDR at either 24 or 30 FPS, and that's with internal capture. So there have been, like, even with the GH4, you could do 10-bit technically, but it required an external capture device that could handle that.
You can do HDR recording as well, right? Like, that's one and the same there. I think with external recording.
On the GH4, you could do it with external recording, but you had to do it with external. With this, you can do it internally. Like, you can just get a fast SD card, stick it in there, and record. Ooh. And one of the features of this too is it has unlimited capture in any mode up until your SD card is full.
Yeah, which is that's super cool because
they've gotten the heat issue solved, which is great.
Yeah, which is super nice. And I mean, like I have a Panasonic G7. For those of you who don't know, it's almost like a minimized GH4. It's actually using the same sensor as the GH4, but it's I believe it's the same sensor. Anyway, it's known to be a really good video camera. But one thing that a lot of cameras do is it doesn't have heat problems. It can record for a very long time, but it has to split the files up too, which is a little bit frustrating because especially if you're using the camera to record the audio, those files, then whenever that split happens, there's a tiny little like bounce in the audio or something, or a little gap there, and there's no way to eliminate that. And so from what you're telling me, does it record that as a single file? I'm assuming so. I'm assuming it's using...
I don't know, but it just depends realistically on what file type they use, because like the main video output file type is capped at 4 gigs physically, so that's why they generally do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know, but at the very least, you never have to worry about like heat or anything, but they're making a big deal of unlimited capture. So to me, I would feel like that would most likely mean one video file, at least.
Yeah, right. I would
at least
so
on one of the codecs. So who knows if it's going to be all of them or just one, but there is some sort of unlimited capture mode. The device also has a microphone inside the camera so that it can use that for noise cancellation of any noise that the camera makes.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay,
Yeah.
that's freaking amazing.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And also for some people that don't know, is when we were talking about the GH4 could record 10-bit HDR externally with an external recorder. That was also only after, at least the HDR part, if I remember correctly, it was only after a firmware update that came out quite a bit after the camera came out. Was
Yeah.
when you were then finally able to record in whatever it was, S-Log or whatever that was allowing the HDR to be recorded.
Hmm.
So. Kind of cool to see that just native now.
Yeah. This device is also so the GH4 was already dust and splash proof. This is now also freeze proof. So if you're going like mountain climbing, you don't have to worry about the device freezing. Although I'm sure it will still stop working after a certain temperature.
Yeah, that
But
probably,
it just
but it
won't
won't
die.
break it. Yeah.
And then the other big thing, which I don't think I put in the I didn't put on the list, but I did remember reading. The camera also has internal 5-axis stabilization.
Oh, that's really cool then too. Okay,
Yeah, so you don't have to worry
that's
about buying
beautiful.
lenses that have it. You always have it.
Yeah, okay, that's really nice. Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking to maybe get this at some point. I don't know, probably not this year. I wouldn't think. Depends on how the channel grows, but
Yeah.
definitely, I like I told everybody I have the G7, and it's a great B camera. It's a good A camera for starters, but it's a great B camera paired up with like the GH4. But I didn't want to buy a GH4 because I knew the GH5 would be coming out soon.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to see that it's using the same battery, though, because a lot of people that bought the GH4 are going to be buying the GH5. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of big YouTubers jump to it because, especially for $2,000, I mean, that sounds like a lot, but, that's really not a lot in comparison to some of the other really good cameras that are going to be competing with this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other camera for $2,000 that I've seen where you can do that has interchangeable lenses where you can do 4K 10-bit.
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
right there, one especially with YouTube, working on HDR, that's just unbeatable right now.
Yeah, and I mean it's the GH4 was such a success, and I'm actually kind of glad that Panasonic took so much time to release the GH5. It took a long time. As now we're seeing a huge upgrade, and for realistically not that much more money. I mean, the GH4 when it first came out was $1,600, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we're only looking at a $400 premium over that. And in fact, the GH4 has held its value really well. In fact, when I was searching for cameras and I was looking at the G7, the GH4, I believe in most places was still $1,500 to $1,600. So that $400 extra dollars, you're getting a lot of stuff for that, which is really awesome. And all the people that had the GH4 can use all their same batteries, which most cinematographers and whatnot buy a lot of batteries. So now they don't have to worry about replacing them all. They just move them all over, use their GH4 as their B camera or whatever.
Yeah. One other thing about this camera, if you ever are wanting to use it for photographs and you specifically are wanting to do like rapid fire photography, this can do 30 images a second at 6K.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Continuously?
Yeah.
Wow, that is really impressive. I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't say surprised by this, but I'm really blown away by this. Like, this is something that we're finally getting in cameras. And I've been incredibly happy with the quality of what Panasonic's been putting out on their Lumix series for videography in specific. So it's nice to see an upgrade to that stuff, because I mean, the G7 for the $700 I paid is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the video quality on the G7 is essentially identical, and in some cases even better than the GH4's video quality. Again, assuming you're not recording with an external recorder doing HDR and like 4K 60 FPS and stuff. But to get that kind of quality, and the only real reduction that I'm getting on this camera is A, there's no log support, and B, it doesn't have like splash proof or anything like that. It is dust resistant, actually, I believe. It's cool to see Panasonic kind of opening up and broadening, because the GH4 was so successful in videography that they now seem to have that as one of their main focuses on their newer cameras that are coming out.
Yeah.
So definitely anybody that may be watching this that's considering starting their own YouTube channel, I'd recommend the G7. It's treated me very well, and its lenses obviously are compatible with the GH4 and GH. Is the GH5 also micro four thirds, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to talk about here?
I mean, there's plenty of news coming out. I just feel like, we should like plan out next week's and just kind of rapid fire spew out information about CES.
Yeah, I'm guessing next week we're going to probably have a pretty long one here. You might even break the 2-hour mark next week on this, because so much CES news.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with
literally
that.
any site I go to and scroll down, it's just like buckets of info.
I know it's ridiculous. Actually, though, I guess one other thing actually we could talk about that's kind of a big launch, even though it's hugely disappointing. I guess this is kind of something I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot to put in the topic document for us is KB Lake.
I mean,
So
it's exactly what I expected.
it's exactly what I expected too, but it's overall a pretty big disappointment for those of you that maybe don't know. I mean, I guess it's not disappointment because it's what we expected, but a lot of people are a little bit frustrated. I feel like, I always thought back when I knew AMD was starting to not do so good, especially when it came to the CPU competition market, let's say 3-4 years ago when things were starting to look downwards for them. I always was worried about, the monopoly of, Intel and NVIDIA kind of, CPU, GPU monopoly there. And actually, I've been quite happy, this is kind of the opposite of what I thought would happen. I've been really happy with it. What NVIDIA has done is they haven't really had that much strong competition from AMD for a while. And yet NVIDIA has still been working really hard to innovate. They're bringing power down, and sure, they quit more than 2 GPUs, but they've been really pushing some seriously powerful hardware out there. They're like competing against themselves, which is something that's nice to see.
When they're in a position where their improvements, especially right now, this is like a catalyst moment for them, where between VR, which is going to sell GPUs, and the power reduction allowing desktop class cards to fit in laptops, that's going to sell laptops that sell GPUs. And so for them, they have the advantage that their performance gains actually matter a lot more than Intel's. Like, let's be real, Intel, yes, they're, really sucks that they're not improving right now. But like, let's be real, if my CPU is 50% faster for gaming, what would that really get me?
No, you do have a good point there. Although there are some games that still do have.
I mean, like Civ would be a major increase, but overall, it's just right now. I see the focus on power consumption mattering a lot for what they're going for, especially as we move towards IoT devices, phones, smaller and smaller, computers and things like that.
Yeah.
What I'm fully expecting is that next year is the big upgrade, because let's look at their cycle now. Instead of it being TikTok, it's the, what is it? POC or whatever.
It's something stupid that's
essentially
hard to
like
remember.
TikTok talk. And so what I expect is that next year we get the big performance upgrade. The year after that, we get a few new features integrated, but similar overall performance. The year after that, we get another major power consumption drop, but very little performance, if any, like we're having right now on the third cycle.
Yeah, right.
And then it just continues.
I actually wanted to touch on that 3-cycle thing there, though. It's something that Kaby Lake has kind of shown to me, or KB Lake, from what I've seen. Is it looks almost like, because Intel now, they used to do for a while, for those of you who don't know, they would change their architecture, and then they would have a die shrink. The die shrink was so that they could reduce power consumption. It would also give you a very minor performance buff. It usually wasn't huge, but 5-10%. But now what we're seeing is they have a 3-stage one where they have another stage that they call it optimization or something like that. And for me, what I see with that is, hey, let's brand this as something cool, but really it's the same thing with like features. And I
don't think it's inherently that. Like, it does matter for laptops. It just doesn't. The focus isn't on desktop, because that's realistically, other than at the very high end, that's not where they make their money.
And I get that. That's true. But I guess my thing is, like, especially there's some, it's almost like a rumor going around, but there's something going around that's showing that you will not any longer be able to, on a Windows machine, stream 4K footage without a KB Lake processor. I don't know if you've heard about that.
But what that is, that's Netflix specifically, which you already can't stream 4K.
Right, because it doesn't have
launching for that because of HDCP. They're just trying to protect their footage, which isn't uncommon. Netflix did the same thing. Tegra was the first Android device, like an NVIDIA Tegra tablet was the first thing to be able to stream HD, because Netflix was doing the same thing, protecting their content from capture and then being torrented. So I get why people are upset, but I mean, it's not anything Netflix has done differently in the past. They've locked it to specific Android versions and hardware. The Motorola Zoom, which I had, was the first Android device to be able to do HD, if I recall correctly. I know it was one Android Tegra tablet, because that was the first device to have the HDCP decoding.
Right.
So Kaby Lake in Windows 10 is required for Netflix 4K. it is a big deal, but it's really not. It's really not like that.
Right. Okay. I guess that makes sense.
So
But yeah,
that's just how I see it.
right.
Apparently,
Right.
I'm being a dick to you.
I
Because
don't
this
feel like
one-
he's being a dick to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see that comment. I don't feel like he's being a dick to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
This is just the way that we
So,
always talk. So
yeah.
I guess yeah. But but
it's definitely an issue. I was just pointing out where it's coming from.
yeah, exactly. Like Joe just said, correcting someone isn't being mean. Like he didn't offend me, so no worries. So thank you for the defense there, but it's all good. I don't feel offended. So, but yeah. So I don't know. For me though, KB Lake, I feel like if they weren't really gonna make this big of an improvement, they should have just released new boards and kept KB and not really released high-end KB Lake. Although I will say with KB Lake that I'm happy with is it does look like we're getting pretty good overclocking advantage over Skylake. Not huge, but we're talking a couple hundred megahertz, which a lot of people are seeing, over 5 gigahertz,
Did you see
being stable overclocks.
Yeah, did you see the 7 gigahertz one?
I did.
That's insane. I want that.
That was on LN2 though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely not feasible for everyone, but I wish that I could have a 7 gigahertz Intel CPU.
That'd be so nice. But I mean, even the 5 gigahertz mark on an Intel, the way their instructions per clock are versus AMD, because I had an AMD CPU running at 5 gigahertz for a while, but seeing the high-end instructions per clock that they have along with that amazing 5 gigahertz mark is pretty impressive. So I'm happy about that. But even so, for me, the biggest thing is new motherboards, which I am glad Intel, I think, did do a good job when it comes to, they were probably like, hey, people are going to be disappointed in this chip. Let's make the motherboards as good as we can, because the chipsets are really good. We're seeing more PCI Express 3.0 lanes on the chipsets, which is allowing, for up to 3 M.2x4 PCIe NVMe SSDs being installed, while still having plenty of space left over after that for for GPUs. So it's really cool to have that large amount of bandwidth available on the PCI Express 3.0 on the chipset, something that we've really kind of needed for a long time. But also, you can touch on that here in a second if you want, but we do have to conclude here in just a moment.
Yeah, I was just going to say I really want a new motherboard so that I can actually get an M.2 SSD, because I'm stuck on, what is it? Yeah, Z87.
Yeah, although you could get a M.2 PCI Express adapter.
Yeah, that's even more money.
Yeah, I mean, like $20.
I'll just throw away when I get a new motherboard.
Right. Your board might not even support.
It doesn't support NVMe.
Okay, yeah. I know a lot of the Z97 boards did. I had a Asus Sabertooth that supported NVMe, but I ended up using the 750 series SSD in that for a little while, and it was pretty nice. But of course, again, also the big thing about higher end SSDs is you're not really seeing that much of a benefit, because the big thing from SSDs is zero seek time versus hard drives. Not really seeing anything that important when it comes to, like, we're seeing high transfer rates, high IOPS, but it doesn't really make things feel much faster. Like, I upgraded to a 600p in my laptop here, which has really high read speeds, and it, for a general consumer or even an enthusiast that's not doing, say, video editing and stuff, which that's why I bought it, because video editing. But I might have noticed, like, the boot time might be a second shorter, and my applications like Premiere Pro and stuff definitely does load a couple seconds faster. But I mean, when you're already talking that it loads in 8 seconds, what's dropping it to 6 seconds? It's not really a big deal to most people, at least. But for video editing and creative professionals, it definitely helps. Scrubbing through like 4K Cineform footage is definitely faster on that than the other SSD. Definitely smoother, not by a huge margin, but it definitely is. So.
Oh yeah. I just want something better, because like right now I have 120 gig SSD for my OS. I have another 120 gig SanDisk cheapo SSD that I just have a couple of games on, and for that is what I want I want a new SSD for, is for more games.
Yeah, I know, I get that. Games benefit, although from my testing, games benefit a lot from high sequential reads and writes, because you're pulling a lot of large chunks of data off at once. And so what I've actually seen tests being successful is, people would compare like an SSD versus like RAID 0 7200 RPM hard drives, and the hard drives actually aren't that far off. Like, the SSD still does beat it in load times, especially on some games that are really particularly load time slow. But for me, like the just going off the RAID 0 hard drives is something I plan to do in my new rig. Is I'll have those two 3 terabyte RAID 0 hard drives for all my games. But I'm still gonna have 2 1TB SSDs in that system too, which will be kind of nice to have. So
Yeah.
We have one more comment. Imagine if Ryzen could hit 7 gigahertz with the IPC of the 6800K. It would sell so well if it came at a good price. The problem with 7 gigahertz really is just being able to keep the CPU not only at the right temperatures. That's not as much of a problem anymore. I mean, a lot of water cooling stuff couldn't handle like a 7 gigahertz mark on that. But the other problem is simply how much voltage you have to throw at it. Because not only can temperatures hurt a CPU, voltage can really hurt a CPU. And being able to hit something like 7 gigahertz, you're throwing a lot of voltage at a CPU, currently speaking, since they're not designed for that. Although, of course, we'll see how Ryzen goes. I sure hope that, that we're able to get continuous, stable, over 5 gigahertz at least overclocks on water cooling out of at least the Black Edition chip, which will be, again, binned from the center of the silicon wafers there. One more comment. Let's see. OMG, would it make GTA 5 an actual game and not a loading simulator 2016? That's a pretty great comment there. Yeah, GTA 5's load times are terrible. I want to tell you something interesting, though, is I actually threw GTA 5 onto my SSD a while ago when it first came out, and load times weren't much better. So whatever they're doing there, load times are probably going to stay garbage constantly with that game. Games like Skyrim and stuff load way faster, so I was like, oh, I'll throw GTA on that because the load times are so trash on my HDD. And not really an improvement. Like not enough for me to go, whoa, wow, that was way quicker. I'm definitely keeping it there or whatever. It was like I didn't even with my own. I didn't feel faster to me. I didn't time it. I'm sure it was a little faster, but it didn't feel enough faster to make it a good benefit for especially a 60 gig game. So I just threw it back on my HDD at that point, which does kind of suck. It is definitely Loading Simulator 2016. And the thing I've noticed is GTA 5, at least for me, if you're shift tabbed into the Steam overlay, if you're playing it on Steam, or if you're, well, actually, no, sorry, not shift tab, sorry, if you're, it doesn't run through Steam. Sorry, if you're on the GTA, like, friends list overlay, the Rockstar overlay, or if you're alt tabbed out, the loading stops. Even though it says it's still loading, I've left it, like, running for, like, 15 minutes, and it won't load until I enter back and wait for it. So you have to watch it load.
That's really dumb.
I know, and I don't know why it is.
Because, I don't know, they don't know how to make games?
I guess so. I mean, it's happened on all 3 computers, too. I thought it was a problem with my computer at first that it wasn't loading because of something weird, but it's happened on all 3 systems that I played GTA on. So GTA single-player benefits from faster drives, but the online is limited to Rockstar servers. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. So, because I almost always play online. So, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, too bad their servers are trash and have been since launch of the console version back on the 360 years ago.
Yeah, they've never been particularly good. Yeah, but oh well. So I guess we actually have to wrap it up here, though, guys. I've got to head out to go get some food and go to work here pretty soon. So anyway, just keep an eye out for us on WordCast next Thursday. We should be starting at 4 p.m. again. It's going to be, for the time being, it should be an almost every Thursday thing at about 4 p.m. So keep an eye out for that. If we do skip a day for whatever reason, I do sincerely apologize, but things do come up. But for now, we're planning on continuing doing it for the rest of the year, and the day could change eventually, but for now it is, again, Thursday at 4 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe to me if you're watching this after the fact or even during the fact. There's actually a link on here to Daniel's channel, because he has his own channel. We're buddies, but he doesn't work for WordTech. He has his own channel, and so you guys definitely should go check that out and subscribe to him because he does some great content over there as well. So,
I haven't posted in a while, but I might do something tomorrow, and no matter what, I have stuff coming next week. So
Right. So definitely something you guys should go check out. But thank you, everybody, for watching. And thank you, Joe and Chris and Matthew and all you guys that were commenting here. Definitely appreciate the following there. And I guess that'll conclude WordCast. So definitely make sure to come back again Thursday at 4 p.m. Next week. And we'll have a CES wrap-up then, so be prepared for a very long one. All right. Talk to you guys later.
See ya.